Good evening, folks. Mike here, back out on the porch. Tonight I got a Florida Man Cameroon wrapper. I think I've showed you one of these before. I bought a 5-pack, but just felt like having one tonight, so here it is. Tonight I'm just drinking root beer. Had a few drinks today out at, we spent most of the day at the pool, my wife and I. So got to go back to work tomorrow, so trying to wind down. So I'm sitting here, watch a lot of YouTube. Too much, probably. In fact, that's about all we got. YouTube, uh, Amazon Prime, of course, and we just signed up for that Tubi. It's pretty good, but they don't have a ad-free version. But they actually have some decent movies on there, and their ads are relatively short compared to some of the other things. So if you're looking for, we don't pay. The only thing I pay for YouTube Premium, and of course I guess Prime, but we do that. That comes with the delivery stuff. But we don't have any Hulu or cable or anything like that. We don't do none of that. But anyway, spend a lot of time watching YouTube and watch all kind of different videos. A lot of retirement stuff nowadays. A lot of cigar and bourbon channels, things like that. Just different things that interest me, and some financial stuff. So the other day, I saw one come up, talked about predatory lending, and never really had a problem with that personally, but I know it is. And I always like to hear them rip on a company every now and then. So I went ahead and watched it. It was about they had this gal on there who bought I don't know what year it was. I'm gonna say a 2014. I'm guessing Dodge Durango. If you remember those. Um, for I think she went to some small car lot, had no credit, bad credit, old enough to have credit, just bad choices. She couldn't get one under regular financing. So she got a loan at this place. She paid, I don't know what she paid for the car, but the car was I think they said it was worth, and according to the book value, at between 8 and 13,000, depending on the condition. And they showed her contract, and the total price of the car, price of the loan was 40 almost $47,000. And I was like, what in the world? And the payment was just, I don't know, I'm gonna guess say it was like $700-800 a month or something, which I know nowadays is normal. But if you have no credit and you can't get a car, had her mom or grandma co-sign the loan. Um, and if you can't afford something, you probably shouldn't be buying something that's $46,000. Um, Clearly stated on the paper. I mean, we've all at some point, I'm sure, gotten a car loan, and it tells you, this is how much you're paying. So I'm sure she saw it, but she got that new used car smell and decided to go ahead and buy it. Of course, couldn't pay for it, and ended up getting repossessed, resold, and as you know, uh, they sued her for the difference in the loan, so which was quite a bit of money for what they ended up reselling it for at auction. And basically, this company will do this over and over again and resell this car and get it back, and then resell it and sue the people. It's a scam. There's no doubt. However, at some point, you have to take some responsibility from your 35, 40-year-old person. You need to look at that paper and go, that seems like a lot of money for this old ass Durango. And even if you don't really know what it was worth, and in this day and time, everybody's got a computer in their pocket. there's no reason why you can't look it up yourself. I mean, it'd take you 2 seconds. I don't. But let's say you thought it was worth that. You got to look at your finances and go, wow, I can't even afford. I can't even buy a car without a cosigner. Maybe I should not be financing something right now. I mean, she had some other issues in her life with housing and this and that, but just a bad decision. And this show portrayed her as being a victim, and I guess kind of was. I guess I don't know if I 100% agree with that, but that's the angle they took. So I'm just thinking about, well, my life. So I wasn't born with money. My dad was a policeman, of course. Back in the day, they really didn't make no money. Everything that my wife and I have today, we bought, we worked for, and paid for. We haven't inherited anything. Um, Everything that we got, we worked and we paid for it. When we first got married, we had a couple of, I think we had car payments a few times, but early on, I think I'm going to guess, I was still in patrol. So this would have been the early 90s. I was in a specialized unit and they had us, and we had a car payment and different things at the time. Never a lot of debt, but had a little bit, and I never liked it. It didn't sit right with me. I wasn't really taught about money, but I didn't like. I know me personally, and her too, did not like owing anybody money. Um, but didn't really, there was no internet really back then. I mean, it was just getting started. There was no YouTube. It just was something I was in my mind. So I was in a specialized patrol unit, and we focused on drug problems. And I don't know if you heard of the DART program, the Drug Abatement Response Team, where you could shut down problem houses. And anyway, we did specialized things in a community. We didn't really answer calls for service per se. But during the Christmas season, they had us one year. There was a lot of burglaries to vehicles and robberies in the parking lots. So they had us working these strip malls, basically doing security, for lack of a better term, in these strip malls. And of course, that's boring as hell because if you're a burglar or you're not going to rob somebody in a parking lot with a police car sitting there with two guys in it. So really, nothing ever happened. So you sitting there, and I remember trying to find something on the radio, and of course, there were no podcasts back then, which is what I usually listen to now. But I found Dave Ramsey. I'm sure probably most people have heard of him. He had a radio show back then, and he's people think different things about him. He's very religious, and so people think what they want about that. But he's all about, if you don't know him, he's all about being debt free. He thinks you should be debt free except the house, and then you should be working on getting that paid off. That's his whole thing. You could listen to one show basically and get his whole spiel. Unfortunately, if people listened to him, he wouldn't have a show, and we wouldn't be, well, up including our government, be in the position we're in, buying stuff you can't pay for. So, but a light bulb went on. I bought his book, and long story short, we sold a car, paid off the other one, and got out of debt probably in the mid 90s, and have, other than a house, which we worked on, um, been ever since. And it's nice. I'm here. It's nice when the only bill you got is a light bill, and your cell phone and a couple other things, and that's it. You could save. You could save. And we worked on paying off the house, and at one point we had moved. I think we were living out there. We lived out there a long time. We had 5 acres in rural part of the county. I mean, it was maybe not for some of you, but one way to a store to get milk, it was 21 miles to get to get. So she used to have to call me on the way home, and I called her and said, I'm leaving work. Do you need anything? Because we're not going back out. And so uh, we lived there for a long time, and then this, I think, in 2005, which was before the crash, the housing crash. So the house had gone up tremendously, and we bought that land and built it. Had a trailer on it, built a house, a small house on it, and we sold it for a pretty good amount of money. So, but turn around and buy something, everything else is expensive, and we moved closer to town, and things were pretty expensive out here. It's kind of where we live now. It's area. We're not living in that house, but we were moving up here, and I found a realtor that we knew through the family, and I told her, I said, look, I want to buy a house. I'm looking for something that, here's how much money I got. This is my pool of money. I'd like to pay cash, but I'm willing to take a little bit of a loan for the right house if it had a pool or something. And I think I told her I wanted to spend no more than $270, I believe it was. So she started showing us houses. So she goes, well, you qualify for, 500,000 or something. And I'm like, I can't pay. I might qualify for it, but there's no realistic way I can pay that. So I said, no. I said, stick in my budget. So she started, oh yeah, I got this great house and it's got a pool. You go look at it, it's 350,000. I'm like, I told you I can't. That's not. I don't want that. I mean, it's a beautiful house, but I know I want to be able to. If I lose my job as a police officer, I want to be able to go to Lowe's or Home Depot and pay the bills if I have to, because you never know what's going to happen in life. I don't want a boat anchor. I don't want to be house poor. I don't want a boat anchor of a loan, a home loan. But she kept showing us all these houses, all these expensive houses. So my wife and my wife calls me one day and goes, hey, I found this house for sale by owner. Well, how much is it? It's $249. It's this, that. So I said, okay, well, let's go look at it. Ended up buying that. Found a house for sale by owner. Beautiful, perfect, great house. We loved it. Probably an acre of land, brick. It was nice and older home. We ended up renovating it while I was living there. I'm doing most of the work myself, but lived there for a long time. But my point is, when I was buying that house, I knew what I could afford. I knew what I was willing to pay. Sure, some of them houses we looked at, I drive by them still today, and I go, dang, that's a nice place. But I didn't want to pay that. I knew I couldn't pay it. I knew, and I didn't want to get in a spot to where if I lost my job or got hurt or, who knows, got sick. My wife got sick. One of the kids, you ended up with a bunch of bills. I said, I don't want to be stuck with this big house note just so I can have something fancy that people can look at and ooh and ah over. Because I really don't give a crap what other people think. I want it to be decent for me. I enjoy it. That's why I do things, because I enjoy them. I don't care about other people, what they think about it. But, and then 2008 happened and the crash, and we had a small note on it because we had to put a roof on it and things like that. So we actually paid cash for it, but then I ended up having to put a roof on it. So I had to get a little loan because I didn't have enough cash to put a roof. We did a couple other things, but nothing huge. But the roof needed to be done. And but the housing crash happened, and then we stayed there till we moved here. So we were there for quite a while, but through the low and then the back high again. And but at any point we could have sold that house and been fine if we had to move. I mean, we could have definitely, we wouldn't have been stuck in that house if we couldn't afford it or something happened. We could have sold it and paid it off and had quite a bit of money left over. But compare that to the folks they lived across the street from us. There, they bought this house, and it was near the St. Johns River, if you know where that is. It was a small road, and then the houses across the street were long lots on the river, and I could walk down to the end of my driveway and see the river, but I didn't have a river view, or definitely not riverfront. I wouldn't even call it a river view because I had to walk to the street to look at it. Guy across the street was the same situation. So I knew I knew his, I didn't know all of his business, but I knew they didn't have a whole lot of money. Well, he gets refinances his house, gets a lot of cash, buys a new truck, and does a bunch of stuff that people do. And then of course he ends up, he can't pay for it. So they end up, the house gets repossessed by the bank, long story short. And instead of just moving out, they destroyed the house, mad at the bank for taking the house. And I remember thinking to myself, why are you mad at the bank? You got the loan. I remember him telling me that how much money he came and told me, which is weird. He came and told me how much money he got in this loan. And I said, well, how'd you get that? And he goes, well, the guy, the appraiser comes out and he goes, oh, I see you have a river view. Checked it on this little checkbox, and that kicked up the value of the house. He ain't have no river view. But he gets mad because then he does that knowing that it's bull crap, and he gets this loan and he can't pay for it, and then decides to destroy the house. And I just didn't understand that, his mentality behind that. He had a pool over there. The house I think had the pool. He threw all kind of stuff in the pool to mess it up, messed up the pump, and he had put in a new air conditioner system. Had his buddy do it, who was a contractor. And then as he was moving out, his buddy came and they took the air conditioner out of the house. I was like, dude, what the hell? And then the house sat empty for years, like a lot of them did, in that time. But I guess my point is, you need to make choices in life. I've had a pretty good salary. I could have bought policemen are famous for big trucks and Harley Davidsons and Sea-Doos and offshore boats and toys, all kind of crap, hunting clubs and four-wheelers and all that. All fun. I love it. I never had none of it. We always had old vehicles, old trucks, old SUVs, and they were fine. They were fine. I had to fix them every now and then, but I had cash to fix them. But we didn't have any debt, and I can't claim. I know people go, well, that money that you got sitting in your house is wasted. You could be investing it, and at whatever percent. Okay, yeah, okay. But when I walk out in my yard, I own it. Now you paying property taxes, but this is my house. I don't owe nobody nothing. It's my house. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. And I know if something happens to me, my wife ain't got to worry about it. She's got a house. All she's got to do is come up with the property taxes every year, and if homeowners insurance, which ain't bad here. But I'm not smart enough to figure out how to game the system and pay, have a house note and invest it. And all. I can't. I don't have time for it. I can't. So it has been a blessing for our family. I have had a lot of peace in that area in my life. I've been able to, I sent my kids to private school for K through 8. which paid off because then they got into college pretty easily, had no issues. They went to public school for ninth grade, and it was stuff they were doing in sixth grade, you know, or fifth grade, some of it at the private school. So money well spent, and they've all successful folks now. So I wouldn't have done it any different. But we didn't go on fancy vacations. I bought an old used camper, and we went camping all over. North Florida's beautiful. If you've never been here. We did a lot of camping, and we did go to we live here in a county on St. Johns County, near the beach, and we spent a lot of time at the beach, and that's it. It's all good. But to get mad at corporations for talking you into something you can't afford, well, you need to look in the mirror. You know, you should have thought about that before you sign on the line, because you know what you can afford and what you can't. And I don't know what people think sometimes when they do that, and why you get mad at the mortgage company for taking the house back because you can't pay for it. Not because you got hurt, or not because, you know, you lost your job, or not, you just can't pay for it and you never should have got the loan. They shouldn't have wrote it, but you shouldn't have taken the loan. And it's, again, I think I talked about it before, that victim mentality. This bank made me into a victim. You know, this company took advantage of me. Did they really? Because like that fella across the street, seems like he took advantage when he let the appraiser check on his box there that he has a river view. That's taking advantage of the bank, because they're basing the decision of that loan amount on that property appraiser's findings, and you knew it was not true, and you let him do it anyway. So I think a lot of times, including that gal, you need to, that from that video, you need to kind of look at yourself. And my advice, which is what the point of this channel is if you can get out of debt. Not everybody can. Everybody's in different situations, but if I can do it, I barely graduated from Duval County Public High School. You can do it. It's not that hard. You just got to make hard decisions, and it's not always fun. You know, you can't go to Vegas and this and that every year, but to me, the peace I get from not owing anybody any money, I wouldn't trade that for nothing. But everybody's got to make their own decisions. I just share things on here based on my experiences, and that's my thoughts on it. I'm not a financial planner. I mean, I'm not claiming to be. I'm just telling you what works for me. Anyway, I hope you find this helpful. If you have any comments or disagree with me, agree with me, whatever, just put it in the comments and let me know, because I'm always willing to listen to somebody else's perspective. But man, if you can do it, I highly suggest it. It's a good feeling. But anyway, y'all have a good week. Stay safe, and we'll see y'all later.